Just when you thought the Jimmy Butler saga couldn't get any more interesting, oh well, we were wrong, because the Miami Heat have suspended Butler yet again. This suspension going to be 2 games long. He wrapped up his 7-game suspension, has played in the last 3 Miami Heat games against the Nuggets, the Spurs, and the Blazers, where the Heat are 1-2 in that stretch, but he will not be playing in the next 2 Heat games in Milwaukee on Thursday and in Brooklyn on Saturday. The suspension is coming allegedly because he missed a team flight on Wednesday. He planned to rejoin the team, but just did not join the actual Heat roster on the flight as a group. But the Heat did not like that, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure that's been happening almost every single road trip over Jimmy Butler's 5-year tenure with the Miami Heat. So it's kind of like, well, you allowed it for 5 seasons, and now you want to crack down on it. Either way, he's suspended, will not be playing the next 2 games, and will probably not be playing for the Miami Heat again whatsoever. This is a perfect reason why, by the way, you should follow me on Twitter, because I broke down the news on social media as Jimmy Butler got suspended. So go give me a follow at Nic_Rohloff. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because we're going to be the #1 spot for the news and rumors around Jimmy Butler, as well as when a trade actually happens. We will be going live for that as well. But as we get into the Jimmy Butler trade talks more, and we talked about it earlier on this morning's episode, a trade just felt imminent, right? Even without the suspension, I thought a trade was gonna happen by the weekend. And with the suspension, it becomes even more clear that Jimmy will be traded by Sunday, in my opinion. Heat are on the road Thursday and Saturday. I think when you look at next week's schedule, I believe they play Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Like, I would not expect Jimmy Butler to be on the roster by Monday. Like, how could you bring him back? A second suspension? Like, you thought he was playing ball with you before, suiting up for the last 3 games after his initial suspension. Yeah, that won't be the case anymore. And I kind of am tinfoil hatting this, if you will, because with that trade, Charania reported with the first-round picks kind of going to Phoenix, to where they can now spread them around in this multi-team deal that likely lands Jimmy in Phoenix, picks to Miami, as well as expiring contracts. Like, why would the Heat go out and play Jimmy Butler while this deal is potentially getting ironed out over the next 3 or 4 days? Because if you get him injured and risk injury, say Butler rolls his ankles out for a month and a half, or God forbid something worse where he's out for the year, well, now you're just stuck holding the bag that is Jimmy Butler. No one's going to trade for him. And if he's out for an extended period of time into the offseason, it diminishes his value even further for a trade in between the 25 season and the 26 season. So it's just like, why would you risk playing him at all for the next 4 or 5 days until you iron out a trade? I think that's, in my opinion, why the suspension ultimately happened, because they would not risk him getting hurt. And that is why I truly do believe that a suspension is coming very, very soon, or a trade is happening very, very soon. And I'll ask you this. Do you think a trade does happen by Sunday? I think it will, but let me know your thoughts on it down below. It's the pinned comment. Will Jimmy Butler be traded by Sunday? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. As I do continue to think that he will be traded, I think it's fun to revisit the conversation we had earlier today about how a trade may look for the Miami Heat revolving Butler. I think that the 4th team that will kind of help facilitate a deal between Miami, Phoenix, and Milwaukee, as Milwaukee seems to be that 3rd team that is pretty much ironed in there, is between Toronto and Detroit. And if you didn't watch the video earlier to this morning, go watch it. We talked about 2 potential trades in depth that could happen for the Miami Heat. We'll talk about them 2 here as well. But before we do that, let me tell you all about our sponsor on today's show, and that is Prize Picks. Prize Picks sponsors the Heat Report, and I'm so happy they do, because it's my favorite daily fantasy sports platform. And with the big game coming up soon in the football world, you need to get started today. because don't miss out on the last football game of the season with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. Prize Picks is also giving away a free pick for the big game where one of the starting quarterbacks will only need to throw 1 yard to win. If you're correct and at least one more stat projection, you can win real cash. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. An example of how you can play, I made an entry for this weekend's action in professional football. More than Jane Daniels half a passing yard. Take advantage of that free square from PrizePicks today. I'm pairing that up with Terry McLaurin and A.J. Brown, more than a half a touchdown. I think each of them finds the end zone in that big-time matchup in the professional football world. You can combine football, basketball, hockey, and more over at PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, as I teased before PrizePicks, shout out to them, the two trades that I think could ultimately happen between the Miami Heat and these other teams revolving Butler, which I do anticipate it happening before Sunday. I think the Heat is going to take on Chris Middleton in almost any deal at this point. I think, obviously, Phoenix is going to get the Jimmy Butler services. I think Milwaukee gets Bradley Beal and one of the first-round picks that the Suns acquired from the Utah Jazz in that other deal they made in the 2031 first-round pick package. The Heat get two of the other first-round picks, whether it be 25 and 29, 25 and 27, 27 and 29, whatever combination you want to put. I think the Heat ultimately get two of them because they're also taking on Chris Middleton's contract, and the other contract will be very dependent on who the fourth team is. If it's Detroit, I think the Heat will ultimately get Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton with the trade picks because the Bucks will send Pat Connaughton to Detroit to get underneath the second apron so they can then be able to aggregate trades in a potential deal. So that makes a lot of sense from that side of things. Milwaukee will probably send a second-round pick to Detroit to take on Connaughton's contract as well. And then in a deal with potentially the Toronto Raptors, I think it stays pretty much the same, just a couple switches. Bobby Portis and Pat Connaughton head to the Toronto Raptors, as well as Haywood Highsmith, because Miami's taking on Bruce Brown's $23 million expiring contract in a projected trade with Chris Middleton, the 2 first-round picks. They also ship out Alec Burks. He gets rerouted to Milwaukee alongside Bradley Beal in that first-round pick. There's so many different avenues this way can go. There's also a little bit of buzz out there. The Bulls could be interested in becoming a facilitator in this trade where Bradley Beal ends up in Chicago and maybe Zach LaVine heads to Milwaukee. Very complicated trade as well, but it really doesn't affect Miami's side of things in a potential deal. There's also kind of gossip out there that the Washington Wizards would like to become a part of this trade. Maybe the Heat take back Malcolm Brogdon. That certainly could help their point guard issues. He's making a hefty amount of money, but it is a contract that is expiring very, very soon. I think that we have the main framework of a trade very close to being finished, though, to where Jimmy goes to Phoenix, Bradley Beal goes to one of Chicago, Milwaukee, and Chris Middleton goes to Miami. It's all about what other expiring contracts will ultimately get moved in this deal, either to Miami, to other teams. I think Miami's guaranteed almost 2 first-round picks and Chris Middleton in this package, though. So get ready to see Chris Middleton in a Heat uniform, if you're asking me. It's a very intriguing situation that is very free-flowing, but I think we have the main framework pretty close to being dialed in here. And that's why you subscribe to the channel, because when a trade breaks, we're going to go live, and we'll talk about what Miami gets in return for Jimmy Butler and what could be next for Miami after that deal. And if I nail the projected trade package, I mean, that's pretty nice by me. I think it's pretty close to being finalized in terms of who's going where, but you never know. Things could change. So either way, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're watching because we'll have you updated with everything. And also one more time, let me know what your thoughts are on this. Predict it. Will Jimmy Butler be traded by Sunday? Type Y for yes, type N for no. But make sure you have notifications turned on and are subscribed to the channel.